Hello, and welcome to my session. I'm Scott Bushke, Managing Partner, Founder of Cornerstone Business Services. We're going to be talking about the pros and cons of different exit options today, and also giving you an overview of what we saw in 2020 and a little bit of prediction for 2021. So we're excited that you're here, and look forward to going through this presentation with you. So the cool thing about working with business owners is that every business that we've worked with over the last 20 years, they all have a story. And every story has a beginning, a middle, and an end. And obviously, at Cornerstone, we focus mainly on that end piece and really helping them maximize that end. So that's what we're going to be talking about today. When we at Cornerstone, just to give you a little bit of context on us, there's really three areas that we focus in. The confidential business sale of maximizing what's important to you, which is where we're going to spend most of our time today. The acquisition of helping you if you want to grow through acquisition and try to find another company that's synergistic with your company. We can help you do that. Or if you just need to know what's your business worth, whether that be for thinking about selling your business or looking to buy another company, and what's the true value of that market so you're not paying too much. A lot of owners do them for estate planning purposes or even for buy-sell agreements. They're economical. We only charge $2,500. And it's a real world example of what is going on in the marketplace, talking to industry experts, looking at other companies like yours that have sold in the marketplace all over the country, and really getting down to that realistic value of what's going on in the marketplace today. So those are the three areas that we focus on, and most of our time is going to be spent on the sale of the business. So a little bit again about what's our why at Cornerstone. We're here to create positive, life-changing events for all the lives that we touch. And we just set out our new 5-year plan, and part of that was to set a goal to help change 75 different families' lives over the next 5 years. So that's what we come around. That's part of our values. Our passion is helping people and making a big difference in their lives. As far as context of size, businesses that we work with typically have revenue from 5 to 100, somewhere up to 150 million. In revenue, EBITDA in that 1 to 10. We sometimes go below that, sometimes a little bit above that, but that's kind of our main range. And then from an estimate of value standpoint that I talked about, those valuations that we do, those can range any industry, really almost any size. We've done them as low as 100,000 in revenue and as high as 150 million in revenue to date. Just again, a few industries that we've worked in over the past, so you can see a lot of variety there. We do have different advisors or investment bankers that have different industry expertise. But as a company, we're fairly agnostic. We don't do your typical brick and mortar bar, restaurant, retail locations. And especially during this pandemic, they really have been hit hard. But we typically are more, as you can see, more manufacturing, distribution, service, professional services, healthcare, and other areas. So what's the agenda to today? So what we're going to cover is different exit options. Again, most people think, I'm just going to call my competitor down the street and sell the business to them. And a lot of times that's not only not a good buyer, but it could be the worst buyer, because many people will gather information. Oh yeah, I'd be interested, and get a bunch of information and then either give you a lowball offer or no offer at all, because they have so much competitive intelligence that they've just gained from you because you were excited and taking them at their word that they were sincerely interested, that you can actually hurt your company, not only hurt it more than help it. So we're going to look at what are all the different options out there. What are the pros and cons of each? And there's many more pros and cons. We're just going to hit a couple on each of those. Give you an update on what's going on in the M&A marketplace with a couple case studies, and then wrap it up. So let's jump into it. As we talked about that end of the story, everybody has, we want everybody to have that happily ever after. And but everybody's happily ever after is different. And this, do they want to go to the beach? Do they want to go to the mountains and ski? Are they all about the grandkids? But just like that, everybody's business is different too, of what's important to them. And everybody, again, most people start out and think, well, it's all about money. What's the biggest, what's the highest price I can get for my company? And that's where people start. But then when we really start peeling back that onion and asking questions, there's a lot of other things to think about. So just some of them are, okay, yeah, what is that price? How much do I get cash at close? Is that important to me or not? What's the deal structure? It could be a high price, but maybe a little bit cash at close and a bunch over time in an earnout, which you don't control that earnout if you're leaving the business. Legacy going forward. Is it going to keep my name? Is it going to keep Cornerstone going forward, or is someone going to buy it and change it to a different name? time commitment after the sale. Do I want to stick around for 5 years because I've really got a lot of energy yet, I just want to sell now and be a good employee and take a lot of hassle and risk off my plate and stress? Or do I want to get out of this thing and I'm burnt out, I want to get out in 3, 6, 12 months? Protection, do I care about my employees? Some people go, hey, it's all about the money. Other people say, I want to protect my employees. I want to make sure that they're taken care of. I don't want someone coming in here and firing my whole management team and bringing in their management team. Culture. That's not on a P&L or on a balance sheet, but it's a big item to, usually the seller cares about that, but also it's a big indicator of if you're going to have success or not. When most acquisitions don't work out, a lot of it's not tied to they didn't understand the P&L or the balance sheet. The cultures didn't mesh, and they really didn't spend time looking at that. But do you care what your culture is after the sale? Real estate, are you going to sell it with the business? If you own it in a separate LLC or a separate entity, are you going to lease it to the new owner? And we kind of call that mailbox money. So you've got, for the next 5, 10, 15 years, they're just sending you checks on a triple net lease. Or are you going to keep it and start another business in that? What are the chances of success? Time frame to close. Is this thing going to get done in the next 60 days or is it going to take 180 days? Because what we have a saying in our world is time kills all deals. So the longer deals go out, just weird stuff happens and things come up, and at some point in time somebody waves that white flag and says, hey, it shouldn't be this hard, enough's enough, and I'm out of here. Certainty to close. Okay, great. You've got 2 different buyers. One's offering more money, but they're really good. They've got a huge due diligence list, and the other one knows your industry, has already done a bunch of work, and they're going to be a little bit easier in due diligence. Do you pick one over the other? Rolling over equity. Do you want to roll over equity, try to get a second bite at the apple? Future growth of the company. Do you want to see your company take off, or are you okay if it's just kind of status quo? And the list kind of goes on and on and on. So at the end of the day, it's not as simple as you think. So what we want to, again, talk about is different options, exit options have different ramifications. And so we're going to just talk about some of those going forward. But the good news is that there are no right or wrong answers. It's all about what's important to you, the business owner. So it doesn't make a difference what I think, what your advisors think, what your buddies think. It's what do you want out of your business. You built this business up. You're the one who's taken this thing to the level that it's at. What's important to you? And that's where at Cornerstone, we take the time to listen and learn what's most important to you. So as you'll see, we have a survey, that we can have you take, and it really gets into it. But, it's basically we start with the whiteboard. It's clean slate, and you start to fill that out. But by understanding your options, it allows you to pick the best exit option, which allows you the best chance of success. Otherwise, you might sell and only find out that, oh shoot, if I would have known that, this other option was a much better fit for me because I wanted to roll over some equity and take it to the next level, but I just thought I could only sell 100% and go away. So that's the kind of stuff that we're going to get into. So here's that survey that I talked about. If anybody wants that survey, obviously you're not going to be able to read it now. Just email me and I can send it to you. Whether you're a trusted advisor or the actual business owner, we can get it out to you so you can use that or share that with your clients, your business owner clients. So what are the pros and cons of each of those options? First one is selling 100%, and this is what most people end up doing, and what most people think of right away. And the pros of that is when you're selling 100%, we can go out to a lot of different buyers, and the strategic companies, private equity, family offices, but mainly those strategic buyers are the ones that are going to buy, want to buy 100% of the company. And by bringing that auction together, but still keeping things confidential through our process, we're typically able to drive a higher value through that. So you're going to get a higher value. If you're kind of burnt out or you're like, look, once I'm sell, I want to be out in a year or so or less, this is probably the best option. Those are some of the pros there. The cons are you emotionally ready to let go? Can you truly let go of the business going cold turkey where you've been in this thing for 30 or 40 years and now after the next year you're going to be out of the business? A lot of people are. They're ready to move on and start that next chapter in life, but others maybe need to phase themselves out of the business a little bit because their identity is so tied to the company. And then loss of control of the future. Obviously, once you're out and you've sold, someone else is going to take the company to whatever direction that they want to take it in. Selling a majority of the company, or what we call the majority recap. So some of the pros of this, and this is where a lot of owners don't know that this is an option, and this is, once they understand it, this is an option for a lot of different folks. But again, it's for the right fit of what's important to them. Pros are you get to take some chips off the table. So we're doing a deal right now where they're selling 80% of the company. They're doing really well. Their company's peaking. it happens to be a good time to sell in their marketplace. They're taking chips off the table, but they're rolling over 20% with this new owner, and now this new owner wants to take it to that next level, and they can get that second bite at the apple, 5 years down the road or whatever it might be. In this scenario too, they're helping fill in voids where they need help with HR, of trying to find good people, and maybe a new CEO. So they're helping fill in the holes of where the management team needs help or any other expertise within the company, areas of need. Growth capital to add additional equipment or whatever they need for additional capacity. And it reduces the risk, because when you roll over money, there's never any personal guarantees, or I've never seen it in the years I've done it. So, if all heck, breaks loose, like in 2020, you never know what's going to happen anymore. You know that your 80% is protected. You've invested with your financial advisor. And worst case scenario is you lose that 20% value, which again, typically doesn't happen, but that's your worst case scenario. There's no personal guarantees where the bank's coming after you for any debt or anything along that line. Some of the cons is if you're burnt out, this isn't a good option. This is more the family office and the private equity. They're going to want you to stick around and run the day-to-day, or if you build out your management team, for your management team to stick around. So, but if you're a part of the company, plan on sticking around. So you need to have some gas in the tank and some energy that you're going to go, for another 5 years or so to continue to build that company up. And while you still run the day-to-day, most of these people aren't operators where they're going to come in and tell you what to do on a day-to-day level. So you still have autonomy there. For any strategic decisions, you do have a partner now, or they do own the company. So you're going to have to sit down with them and make sure that your vision and their vision are on the same page going forward. Selling a minority stake. So this is not as often as the majority stake, but this is more of a minority recap, we call this. And so the pros are growth capital, new partner who has a proven playbook and connections in the industry. So we're actually talking to a company in the coffee space right now. They roast coffee. They've got 20 plus locations around the country. And they got hit by COVID just like everybody else did, because they've got retail locations. And they've got a strong balance sheet. They've been around for 20, 30 years. And they're going, okay, do we just kind of weather the storm and get through this and then eventually grow when we come out of this? Or does it make sense to maybe sell 25% of the company to a private equity firm or a family office that really knows the coffee space and has the playbook that could take us from 20 locations to 40 locations in the next 12 to 24 months? And or help us grow in a segment that we're not in, the ready-to-drink segment or whatever it might be. And that's something that they're really looking at seriously right now, because they can get there a lot faster. So even though they might only own 75% of the company, they're going to be able to take advantage of this COVID situation where there's a lot of mom and pop coffee companies or coffee shops that are going to go out of business, unfortunately. I mean, retail's just been obliterated. But to be able to say, okay, people aren't going to stop drinking coffee, and they're going to want to go out for coffee once we can all get out again. And so they can take advantage of either cheaper leases or buying real estate or buying other small companies or taking their place when they go out of business. So there's a huge opportunity for them to significantly grow their business in the next 2 to 3 years, more than they have in the last 20 years. The cons, you have a partner. So you still control the company. And even though you own it, as long as things are going good, you own it, you make the decisions. But if things go in the tank, obviously they're going to have some protection, right? So you don't ride it right off the cliff. But you do have a new partner. You do have potential new reporting requirements. If you were, didn't have good reporting requirements or metrics in place, they're going to help you kind of professionalize the company. But that will take a little bit of work to get started. And you really need to have a clear exit strategy of when and how you're going to get out. So before you do the deal, hey, when do we want to get out, and who do we think the buyers might be, and then working towards that goal versus you wanting to get out in 10 years and they want to get out in 5, or vice versa, or you want to get out in 2 years and they're like, hey, no, you can't leave for at least 5 or 6. That might put a big damper on you or your spouse's retirement if that's what you're looking to do. Selling to family members, always an interesting option. But one that it works very well in a lot of cases. And the pros there is, you really get to give that business or sell it or transfer it, however you want to do it, to your loved ones and be able to see, pass it down to the second, third, fourth generation. Now, there's obviously, there's no process involved, so you don't have to go through a process to sell your business, which can be a distraction. And just less disruption in the business, and the culture should stay the same because the same family is running the company. But there's a reason why only 33% of companies go to a second generation, and I think 12% go to a third, and about 2 or 3% go to a fourth, is it's not always easy. with family and money, there's always, always issues, or can always be issues and cons. So the first one is, choosing a successor can somewhat put a strain on the company. Do I pick which of my three sons, do I pick to run the company, or if I want to get my money up front to know that for all my hard work and my wife's hard work for the last 30 years, that I get paid now. Well, with a family transition, a lot of times it's not going to be that way. You might get some money up front, but a lot of it's going to be over 5 to 10 years. So as long as the company does well and the industry it does well, you're going to get your money. But what happens if a new competitor comes into town, or what happens if your son or daughter isn't as good as you thought they were, or they don't have the passion that you had, or just the skill set? Not only do you lose that value that you built up, that cash flow that you built up, but you also probably are going to have some strains on the company. And we've seen it where all of a sudden, it's not that my mom or my dad passed the company down to me and I just ran into the ground, because my ego's not going to let me say that as the next generation. It's that my greedy parents made me pay too much, and now guess what? My retaliation is my 3 kids aren't going to see grandma and grandpa at Christmas anymore. And you just have those kind of games that can be played, and tensions arrive when family and money mix. And the last one is the word fair. Well, I'm going to be fair, and I've got a son and a daughter. I'm going to give each of them 50% of the company. And we actually saw that in a deal where it was actually 2 sons, and one was the CEO and hard driving and really driving the company forward and doing great. And the other one was more introverted, IT related, and really didn't do as much in the company. And it wasn't a problem. The one brother, the CEO brother, didn't have an issue that the brother was getting a $80,000 salary and a company car and benefits, and he was doing some work, but not as much as he thought he should for that salary. It was at the end of the year when they made $1 million, they had to do a distribution, and the other brother got 50%. So if they took out $1 million, he got $500,000 for all of his hard work, but the brother got $500,000 too. And that was causing a lot of strain and friction between the 2 brothers. So luckily we were able to bring in UTech consultants as a business psychologist, and they were able to go in there, interview all the family members individually, and then bring them together. And ultimately the one brother bought out the other brother, and the family is still together. But for the one time that happens, by bringing the right people and listening, 10 times it doesn't happen, and there's a lot of issues there. So it can be a great way of doing it, but just really plan and have those tough conversations with all your family members up front if it's something that you're going to do. Selling the management team, again, very similar. Same with the pros. You pass on a valuable asset to people that you know and trust and respect. No process to go through as far as going out to third-party buyers, and you're rewarding that team for the loyalty. But on the flip side, again, the payment's probably going to be over 5 to 10 years. And again, if they don't run the business as well as they could or should have, or something comes up that isn't under their control, you don't get full value for your company potentially. A lot of times they want that good guy or good woman discount. Hey, I helped you build this thing up over the last 15 years. Why should I pay what another buyer would pay? I want to get the good guy discount. Or we see this a lot as sandbagging. So we've seen a lot of business owners that are nearing retirement, so they bring in maybe somebody in their 40s or early 50s to kind of manage the company and kind of take over the management. And they go, hey, someday this could be yours. I'll sell it to you someday. But there's never a day of when someday is. It's, is this 5 years from now? Is this 25 years from now? And there's never a price set up front either. So we've had these people in our offices that end up buying companies from us. They go, well, yeah, I did it for a while, but after a while, I kept driving up revenue and driving up cash flow or EBITDA, which was great for him or her, but all I was doing was raising the price on myself. So so I might just kind of do the status quo and not drive real hard charging, and then once I buy it, then I can take off. So it might hold the company back because they might not want to continue to drive value because they know they're just driving up the price that they're going to eventually pay someday. So if you're looking at doing that, what we've seen work is if you set the price and time frame, either the multiple or just set the price in today's dollars, like, okay, it's $10 million, so you keep driving it up, I make more cash flow, and in 5 years, you could buy the company for $10 million, and it might be worth 15, but you're going to get that additional value because you put the work into it. But in the meantime, I'm making all the profits going forward. Transition to an employees or an ESOP. That's one that is not as common, but it definitely is a great option for the right folks. So pros, a lot around net out after taxes, a lot of tax benefits for the seller, to an outside buyer. We've seen this where we actually had a deal where one of the buyers was an ESOP, and our client could have deferred the taxes with the right program in place. And actually, he was in his 80s. If he would have kept it in this program until his passing, whenever that would have been, then his heirs or his estate could have got that money tax-free. So it's possible to defer all the taxes, but mainly it's a deferral until you want to pull the money out. But the employees now become owners, and as employee owners, they maybe take more pride or have an opportunity economically that they otherwise wouldn't have had. Less disruption, the culture stays the same. So it's a great, a lot of pros. Cons, setting up an ESOP can be challenging. It's not simple, it's not black and white, and it comes with its own costs, just like selling your business would come with costs. There's costs for both. It's not free, and not all companies are set up for that. So it really, if you're a 10-person company, probably not the best fit. But I think we've seen it at over 10 million in revenue or over 30 employees. That's when it really starts to make sense, and above that. But again, then annually, there is cost, the annual cost to keep that program in place. So it can be the right fit for some, and obviously, like everything, there's a few cons. Divesting a division of your business. So looking here, we're looking at the pros of getting some cash, getting some liquidity, whether that's for your core business or just to put some money in the bank and again diversify your assets, but allowing you to focus back on your core business, keeping the company in a size that's manageable for you. We worked with a client over in Michigan, and that was one of the things that that was really important to him. He had bought out his partner and found out that, holy cow, I can't do this all by myself. So he's like, I want to take this division. It was his biggest division, actually, and say, I think I can get a premium for this. And then he still had other good divisions, and he still had other good ideas that he wanted to do, that he was going to take that and then invest it back into the company and move forward with what he could do there. So it was something that, if it's more manageable, you want to take some chips off the table, it's a great way to do that. Some of the cons, the sale process can be a little bit of a distraction. Maybe result in losing some good employees, letting them go with the buyer. So if there's some really good employees that work for that division, but we're also working for your other core division, you might lose those because they might have to go with, that might be part of the deal, that they have to go with that other division. And then lastly, if someone buys that division and moves it, they move it from Green Bay down to, over to Michigan, a lot of those employees probably aren't going to move to Michigan, so they're going to lose their jobs. And that, that's just part of the problem there, that you could have some good people lose their jobs and have to help them find new jobs in the area. Lastly, or one of the others is just closing your doors. And unfortunately, we see this a lot, where the people just think that, okay, well, I've run my business for a long time. I think I'm retirement. I'm just going to shut it down. I'm just going to, have a going out of business sale if they're in retail, or just retire and have a big thank you party for all of their clients. In fact, we had this issue, or this come up with, it turned out to be a client of ours, but he went and met with his financial advisor, and he had a behavioral health company, 3 locations, doing well, profitable, about 17 different therapists, and really providing a great service to their clients. And he was at the retirement age. He already had found the place out in Tucson he wanted to buy and move to. So he went to his financial advisor and said, hey, I'm shutting this thing down next year. Is there anything we need to do? And the advisor we had a relationship with said, hey, wait a second. I think, let's talk to Cornerstone. I think there's some value in this business. He's like, well, maybe there is, maybe there isn't. I don't know. And we came back with an estimate of value at like $1.5 million. And he was like, wow, if you can get $1.5 million for this thing, absolutely I'll sell. And we took it out to market and got 3 or 4 offers and ended up getting, I think, about $1.7 million for his business. And again, he just would have closed the doors, but he was able to maximize that value. Everybody kept their jobs because, again, the cons are, typically lowest return. You just sell your assets. So like for Cornerstone, we've got desk chairs and computers that are virtually worth nothing, and we would just retire or give it away. People lose their jobs, and the negative impact on the community. A bunch of people lose their jobs, and they have to go find other jobs or whatever it might be. And if you own that real estate, like in a separate LLC, like a lot of business owners do, with the business, you had them paying rent and paying all the utilities and maintenance costs. Now you've got this building with holding costs. You've got utility costs. You've got maintenance costs. You have the taxes on it. and you don't know if you'll sell that business or that building in a month or a year or more. So, that's just something to think about, and it's kind of a last ditch effort. But unfortunately, with business owners out there, when they don't know what they don't know, a lot of times this is the route that you'll go because it's just the easiest. And so again, that's why we wanted to take today and really explore all the different options so you could really get an idea of what makes sense, or what are a couple different options that you'd like to explore a little bit more. Death or disability are the pros, and none. There are no good reason, good things that happen if you die while in the company and you haven't planned for that. Cons, there's a lot of them, but these are some of the biggest ones. You leave your grieving family, and not only have they just lost, their spouse or their dad or mom, but now they've also got this business that, if they're not in that business and they weren't up to speed on things and they didn't have a plan in place, holy cow, now how do I come in? What do I do? We had another story with this one. We were talking to a client about selling their business, and kind of had that 1 year itis. Yeah, I could sell and max. I know I've got enough money to live, but he was just emotionally tied to the company. It was who he was. He said, yeah, just give me 1 more year. I want to do this. And then we came back and yep, a little more value. Yeah, I want to do this. I want to pay down a little more debt. And it was we call 1 year itis, where the owner emotionally can't separate themselves from the business and they can't let go. And then all of a sudden he had a massive stroke and died 2 weeks later. And the wife came into the business and just had no clue where to start. And unfortunately with that, usually the business value declines significantly pretty quickly, or it might not be able to be sold at all. And again, not only have you lost your spouse, you've lost your main income stream, you've lost the legacy that he or she set up, and all the employees have lost their job. So it's not a place that you want to be. So that's why we put this conference on, is to just help people get educated and understand so they know what to do and to plan more. And there's other people that we talking about planning and doing different things. But if we can just take action now, because it never happens to you. It's never going to happen to you until it does, or someone that you know. And unfortunately, then it's too late. So what's going on in the current M&A marketplace? Now, it's been a crazy year. I've been doing this for over 22 years now. And 2020 was probably the craziest year, with the most unique year we've seen in my over 2 decades. So what's going on today? So what we're seeing is like, back in 2001 when we had the recession, the 9/11, and obviously the Great Recession in 2008 and 9, volume came down. So less deals got done, fewer deals got done. COVID reduced the number of sellers in the marketplace. So because a lot of businesses were affected, if they were on market, they pulled themselves off the market, or they didn't go to market because they were negatively affected by COVID. And ironically, a lot of companies that either were necessary or unaffected, or a few that were actually positively affected, a lot of those people also said, well, I got COVID, I got a presidential election, we've got civil unrest, we got all these craziness, all this uncertainties. There's no way I could sell my business now and get top value. And ironically, because of that concept, people that did go to market actually did get top value. There's just with the private equity groups, which is just one segment of buyers, they have combined just in the United States over 1.5 trillion, not billion, trillion dollars of dry powder or money that they wake up every day trying to find companies to buy or invest into. So there's a lot of buyers that are still out there. So the uniqueness is when the other recessions hit, volume came down, but also values came down, because when there's uncertainties in the marketplace, buyers pull back because they don't know, again, what they're buying is, what is your future cash stream? And when we don't know what that looks like, they're going to offer lower multiples or pay less for your company. But in this time frame, because there's so many buyers out there, we thought the structures were going to change a lot, and they really didn't change, because they knew if they did big earnouts or different things on a good company that wasn't affected, they weren't going to get the company. And we've got a couple of case studies that we'll talk to that in a second. So we found that it's still been a good time. Now, I will say that our companies have been either in 2 categories or 3 categories, either not affected at all, it was just kind of business as usual. They were affected kind of Q2, kind of March, April, May, and then came back June, July, August to 2019 numbers or better. Or the small group that was actually positive, had a positive influence. Like, we're talking to a lab testing company right now that did all kinds of testing. Well, now they're doing COVID testing, and they're up 40% over 2019 because of COVID testing. Those companies are very much sought after, because there's so few companies, because of all those companies that got negatively affected, that got pulled out. And also because of all the companies that said, again, there's no way I could sell my business and get top value. Those few companies, or that kind of law of economics, law of supply and demand, there were so many buyers out there, and the sellers were here, and they dropped down to here, that because of that, they kind of fought over them, and people were still able to get very good values. In fact, in some cases, the values were above pre-COVID pricing or values, which was, again, just unheard of. Interest rates, again, are still record lows. They're probably going to be there for another year or two, is what most people think. And banks are still financing. So banks have pulled back a little bit, where maybe a deal was maybe a 3 times EBITDA, for a senior debt lender. Maybe now it's 2.5. So it's not that all the banks have gone away. They pulled back. Some have pulled back a little bit, but it's still easily a way to get deals done, and getting good structures on deals too. And it appears 2021 is going to be a banner year. What we're seeing, what we're being told and hearing from our referral sources is that the folks that didn't sell 2020 because of COVID are probably going to come to market this year. And now with the presidential election and all the elections kind of getting wrapped up and moving forward with what Biden's plan is for tax increases, his plan is really to almost double capital gains. We see a lot of business owners that are kind of getting their numbers together in 2020 to go to market in 2021 to beat those tax increases from what we've been reading out there, that they're going to kind of get through COVID and this year, election-wise, and then or political-wise, and then in late 2021 potentially start to take a look at what our what do we want to, how high can we get those taxes up, and driving up the taxes. So and then taking effect in 2022. So there is a small window, not a big window. Again, politically, they could do it faster. They could never do it. It could take 2 years for them to do it. But that's kind of what we're hearing right now of what we're seeing. So we think there's going to be a lot of folks that are going to want to beat the tax increases because, again, just with what Biden's plan is right now, who knows what he'll get pushed through. But if you sold today a $10 million company, just using simple math, using 20% capital gains, you'd net out $8 million. And you could get down to Florida in this winter and everything else and enjoy life. Or you could work for the next 3 years, build up your company to $12 million, work really hard and build it up over 20% more, and then sell your business. Again, all things being equal, you would net out about $7.5 million. So you'd work 3 more years of your life, build the company up from 10 to 12, but get less money. So that's really where you need to sit down and talk to, what we recommend is doing an estimated value. Again, they're $2,500. This is typically the largest financial transaction that you're ever going to make or your client's ever going to make. You want to make sure that you do it right. So by looking at doing an estimated value, understanding the real value, we don't tell you what you want to hear, we tell you what you need to hear in order to make a well-informed decision. And then once you have that number, you sit down and talk with your CPA and say, okay, hey, Cornerstone thinks I can get 15 million or 10 million for my business, whatever the number is. Who cares what that number, that total number is? What are you going to net out of that number? What does that net number look like? So maybe you net out $7 million, or on 10 million, maybe you net out 5. But that doesn't make any sense either until you sit down with your financial advisor and we say, and have them go through your planning tool of here's all the assets, here's all the debts that I have, here's what I want, here's what I want to do, here's my ideal lifestyle, here's the bucket list, here's all the things I want to do. Do I have enough money now to do that, or is there a gap? And if there is a gap, how big is that gap, Mr. or Mrs. Financial Advisor? And if the net number from your business more than fills that gap, then why wait? Why did you get into business to begin with? Now you can do all the things that you wanted to do with your family, your spouse, your grandkids. And that's some of the things that we work with you at Cornerstone. Again, we talk about what's important to you and listening and going through this, but it's really understanding and having that knowledge, because most business owners don't plan and they don't go through this process and they just hope and pray that whatever they get is going to be enough, or most actually don't sell. About 70% of businesses don't successfully sell. It's a small number, and what you'll see with us, we change those odds for you significantly. So what's going on is, just again back in the marketplace to kind of give you an idea of what it looked like. So again, back in 98 to 2000, before the corporate scandal recession in 9/11, there was a good 2.5-year window where it was really a good time to sell. Then, things dove down and they got better. And then 6, 7, and 8 were great years. 7 was a record year. 8 was going to be a record year, and then we all know what happened in 8, where it was not fun for anybody in the marketplace. Dove down again, and again, when things dive down, it happens kind of overnight. You don't get to see like, oh, on the horizon the next year, it's probably going to be bad, so I can sell now and get ahead of it. It usually happens the next day, and you've lost that value, and you can't get it back, because in most cases, if you're just kind of going along like this, the things that you can't control, interest rates, stability in the marketplace, how much lenders are lending, how many buyers are out there, what the future looks like, all of that's going to have a bigger effect on your overall value than the things that you can control. Now, if you're going like this, or you're making some big moves, then obviously then you can make some bigger moves. But here's that window, and then the last window has been, since 2015, and it's gone on for 5 years, and we've had obviously for some it was not a good year last year. For others, we had a great year last year. But we think 2021 is going to be a good year because, again, there's just so many buyers out there, and the interest rates are still low, banks are still lending, and everything that we talked about before. So. But again, the big unknown is when our tax is going to go up. It's probably not a matter of if now anymore. It's probably a matter of just when, and that's where we want to try to help you, make sure you understand that you can net out as much as you can, so you don't have to pay Uncle Sam and put as much in your pocket. So a couple of quick case studies that happened this summer and this our last summer and fall into the winter. One was a capital equipment company. We took to market in June. It was one of the first companies we took to market, kind of to test how the market reacted during COVID. We really didn't do much of anything in March and April. May, things started warming up. We got one deal closed in May. And to our surprise, this was a nice company, well run, but not sexy, not real scalable, one-off, really, highly engineered capital equipment. And we had, usually we get about, I think, 35 signed NDAs. So buyers that signed an NDA or a non-disclosure agreement or confidentiality agreement saying, I have enough interest from the teaser or the one-page executive summary that I want to look at. I want to take a look at this company deeper. We usually end up with about 35 or so within a month or two. In this case, within the first couple of weeks, we had 43 signed NDAs. And within a month to 6 weeks, we had 5 written offers. And we moved through close. And what typically a process is 9 to 12 months nationally, we got it done in 5. And some of that is because, again, there's so many buyers and there's so few companies out there, but also with the lack of traveling, people are a lot less distracted. They're not going on vacations. They're real focused, and we can get a hold of them a lot easier and move the process along a little bit quicker. The other one was a plastic lumber company, and it was one where we went to market with, and in 4 days, we had 60 signed NDAs. It was more than I've ever seen, and we had ended up with 120 signed NDAs over a period of about a month. And within 30 to 45 days, we ended up with 28 written offers, and it was from individuals, family offices, private equity groups, companies or strategic buyers, and even ESOPs. We had the full gamut, so they could really see all their options, because that's our goal for business owners, is to give them options and give them peace of mind that they didn't leave any money on the table, and that they can, again, choose what's most important to me. And in this case, they ended up choosing a family office that had a longer term hold period because they didn't want it to be sold in a shorter period of time. And they wanted to roll over 20% of the company and be part of the company going forward. So they sold 80% of the company and kept 20%, and now are working with the new partner to grow the business and really add multiple lines and everything else, because they're at some capacity issues, and they want to make sure they get it done and do it right. So again, I just briefly talked about Cornerstone, so you can see that on average in 2020 we had 37 signed NDAs, and usually we get around 3, sometimes 4 over the last several years written offers. We ended up with an average per deal, on average 6, which again is unheard of, especially during a pandemic and everything else, but it just was so few sellers and so many buyers out there. The premium is what we look at, what other companies are similar of size and scope, what they've actually sold for in the marketplace, and then what we're able to get with our Assurance 360 process, the process that we use to take a client through the process. And then our closing ratios, again, where the national averages are 15 to 33%. We've been averaging over 70% on average over the years. In the last 3 years is 75%, 100%, and then even through COVID was 83%. So here are some tools that if you're a business owner, again, email me and we can send you these. If you're a trusted advisor, we can also send these so you can have all of your business owner clients take them. But one is the critical questions for every business owner, and someone's got to have this conversation, because most times the business owner is not going to think about this themselves. They just don't know what they don't know, and because of the confidentiality nature of everything, they just they don't know where to start. They don't want to ask their buddies or anybody else, because no one wants, their employees, their customers, or their competitors knowing that they're for sale. So it's kind of the blind leading the blind. So we've created some different questions that you can, you as the trusted advisor, who has the honor, but you also kind of have a responsibility to ask these questions, because no one else is, and someone's got to help guide that business owner, or if you're the business owner, doing it yourself. So we have one that's going back here, the critical questions. The other one is the conversation. Is it time to sit down with Cornerstone and have that conversation about, what are my next chapters of my life? And it's the conversation is just a self-assessment that they can take in 2 minutes and just get an idea. If they don't, great. If they do, let's have that conversation. So it's an easy way to get them thinking about, what is that next chapter in their life. So again, with business owner clients, what if today was your last day? What would happen to the company? Do you have a plan in place? What would your family do or not do? Would the business carry on? What's your legacy? What would happen to the employees? So it's just getting them. It's not an easy question, and most won't have an answer, but it just starts the conversation. And that's what we're all about, is again, educating and starting that conversation. And whatever option they choose that's best for you or best for your client, then that's the right one. And that's what we're trying to help you with today. So we also have a 30-second M&A update that we can give you. It comes out every 2 weeks, and it's just a short M&A tip, some stats going on in the industry, so you can kind of stay top of mind of what's going on in the M&A world, and then an education article. So again, that you can sign up yourself for that, or you can sign up and get it and then forward it on to your clients, or sign up your business owner clients. So there's a saying that it's not how you start that's important, it's how you finish. And that's what we're here to talk about, is that happily ever after, and what does that look like for you, and how do we get you there for all that, for all that time and effort you put in to make sure that we can maximize that value for what's important to you. And unfortunately, it does make a difference when you go to market, because if you go, and you can see from this chart, if you're going up, you can maximize that value and things are going good, that's the time to sell. That's the time that you could get out and maximize that value. If you hold on, let's say you're in business for 30 years and you hold on 1 year too long, it's 3.3% of your journey. So 3.3% of your journey you held on too long, but you could lose 40% of the value of your company or more. Or if you hold on a year or two too long, you might not be saleable at all. So that's where understanding how long does the process take, what your options are, going out, finishing strong, finishing on top. And again, going back to this slide, it's not how you start, it's how you finish, and that's what we're here to do. So I thank you for coming to the presentation. I look forward to speaking to you. We are going to take live questions at 3 o'clock. If you have any other questions, feel free to email me here or give me a call. Everything that we do is confidential, so don't worry about the word getting out. We've been doing this for over 20 years. We completely understand that, and let's just see how we could help you. Thank you, and hope you have a great day.